The same block, which has a mass of 5 kilograms, is now sliding at a constant speed across the surface, right? The kinetic friction coefficient is 0.2. What horizontal force is required to maintain the constant speed? Okay, so basically we have a block. It is actually moving with some velocity, v, and we want it to be maintaining that velocity. So what does that mean? For it to maintain the velocity, there should be no net acceleration, right? So there needs to be some sort of force pulling it this way, the applied force, and we know that that force, in order for it to maintain a constant velocity, for there to be no net acceleration, it needs to be equal to the frictional force, which is of course always opposing the direction of movement, right? So this is the force of kinetic friction, which is the frictional force that is applied when the object is moving. Okay, when it's not moving, it's the static friction. When it's moving, it's the kinetic friction. Okay, and so what we can say is that the sum of the forces has to be equal to 0, and of course the sum of the forces is the applied force, right, minus the kinetic friction force. So that has to be equal to 0. So then we can just say that the applied force has to simply be equal to the force of kinetic friction, right? And so that's going to be equal to the coefficient k multiplied again by the normal force, which we know is just mg. So it's just going to be mu sub k times m times g, which is simply 0.2 times 5 times 10. And so that's going to be 50 times 2 over 10, which is simply 10 newtons. So B is the correct answer. So notice, by the way, based on the last two questions, that in order to get the object to start moving, to overcome the friction, the static friction force, you need more force than to keep it moving afterward. And the reason is because the kinetic force, the kinetic friction coefficient is usually less than the static friction coefficient.